The spirit of the holidays brings out the best in people. Case in point, this kindly good Samaritan seen here rushing to the aid of his neighbor who was hanging for dear life off the edge of his roof after trying to hang some Christmas lights.
All right. Can you reach it? Can you reach it?
When the dangling neighbor doesn't respond, our holiday hero first raises the alarm
Help!
before running to call 911.
Help!
The only problem is, there's no one to save. The neighbor hanging from the roof is actually just a dummy the homeowner added to his light display for a little levity. Now, humor is subjective, but the responding officer doesn't find it all that funny.
What's your purpose of that? Is that just a game? I mean,
I think he put it up for decoration.
we got people calling us.
Oh, really?
Nice hanging out.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let it know.
Considering the current state of the world, as well as some of the stories we've seen on this show,
Can you reach it?
it's nice to know there are still decent neighbors out there like this gentleman.
Help!
If every neighbor were as helpful as this one, the world would be a better place. Mount Dora is a quiet suburb just north of Orlando. And for Gene Bozzi, it was the perfect place to move with his family.
People in my neighborhood actually trying to look out for each other. So they, they make sure people was picking up dog poop. They make sure that there's not people speeding through the neighborhood. Everybody got a good uplifting spirit, a good attitude, and they just want to see a good environment for the children and make sure there's no like bad things going through our life.
But unfortunately for Gene and his neighbors, something potentially bad has found its way onto a neighbor's front lawn. An alligator from a nearby pond.
Baby, watch out, watch out.
This particular day when our kids was just out of school, my daughter got on her bike. As soon as she got on, she came back, there was an alligator that came out of the water.
Oh.
But I'm looking like, hold on, somebody got to do something.
With neighbors gathered around and uncertain about what to do next, Gene is forced to improvise. Armed with a recycling bin, Eugene inches his way towards the ferocious reptile, careful to keep the bin between them.
I just thought that was the best thing to do is to, eliminate the threat. I did the safest things for all parties. Basically use the trash can, scoop him up like the old game, Hungry Hungry Hippo. When I got into that point when he was actually in the trash can, when his tail was thrashing back and forth for the last moment, is when I thought about it, like, I think this is like Jurassic Park. He kind of scared me for 5 seconds, but I had my hand on the lid, he was doing his thing in there.
Gene finally bags the gator, but is now faced with the problem of what to do with an angry 300-pound reptile trapped in a garbage bin.
This is crazy. So I thought to myself, if I put him back in the water, he's more than likely going to keep himself here because he don't want to go through what he went through again. So that's why I thought to myself when I returned, and I thought it was the right thing to do. Always return the animals back to his natural habitat.
With the gator safely returned to the next door swamp, Gene is hailed by his neighbors like Superman, or more specifically, a super Florida man.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a superhero. I was like, I'm a protector, a dad. My kids depend on me. They rely on me first. They know actually that they dad is their real superhero. And I gotta be that, so I get old and they take care of me. So that's how I look at it.
And most important of all, the gator incident has brought Gene's community together like he's never seen before.
More than anything, I love the fact that they definitely gave me a lot of positive energy when the incident happened. That showed me that I don't care if you're black, white, green, whatever the case may be. We gonna look out for each other. We gonna be here as a family, not just a community, but a neighborhood, old-fashioned way.
It's an afternoon like any other in the sleepy coastal community of Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Homeowner Michael Nicastro has known many days just like it.
I've lived here about 7 years, and it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. I'm very close with my neighbors that are right around me, and we all stick together and look out for each other.
But this seemingly idyllic slice of suburbia is not without its problems.
The neighbor down the street has these 3 large dogs that get loose all the time. They have bitten multiple people, at least 3 that I know of. They actually bit a kid, and the mother that tried to get him off of her child. Then they also bit a fireman in the leg. Cops have been there, but they really hadn't taken the dogs away or did anything about it as far as we know.
The dogs continue to be a nuisance around the neighborhood over the next year. Then one day, things take a turn for the worst.
We got back from the store, we heard some screaming on the other block. That's when we went around to see what was going on and seen the dogs biting a lady.
3 giant pit bulls around that.
That's when the dogs came up near our house.
The pit bull's irresponsible owner is nowhere in sight, and his dogs seem totally untrained. Surrounded and outnumbered, Michael swings a piece of pipe to hold them off.
You know, the adrenaline was kicking in, my heart was racing, and I was just doing my best to keep them away from me. I've owned many dogs. I love dogs. But these dogs were the most aggressive dogs I had ever encountered in my life. I didn't want her to get bit, so I just tried to hold them off the best I could until she can get in the house. I think it was only 25 seconds. And at the time, the police had pulled up, and as they pulled up, the dogs turned and ran that way.
Law enforcement are finally able to gain control of the dogs and get everyone in the neighborhood inside to safety.
The animal rescue showed up. They got them into a van and took them away. I don't know where the dogs are now, but the owner had just received a sentence of 30 days in jail and a $1,000 fine.
In total, 5 people in the neighborhood were bitten that day. But thanks to Michael's actions, there wasn't a 6th.
My immediate neighbors, we all get along, we're like family. We are always together all weekend long. A lot of people are saying I was basically a hero, but I don't look at it like that. We always watch out for each other.
Los Angeles, California. It's the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and like many Americans, Derek Downey is stuck at home. Luckily, he has a back porch where he can relax and connect with nature.
I live close to the woods. There's a lot of wildlife surrounding my neighborhood.
So he decides to connect with a different kind of neighbor.
I have 2 neighbors. Their names are Richard and Maxine, and they just happen to be squirrels. Richard, there you go. Wash it down with some water.
But like any neighborhood relationship, this nutty friendship doesn't develop overnight.
I gotta go get you some food. How are you? With Richard, I saw this squirrel looking at me. I was like, what's up, buddy? I had some nuts. He grabbed my hand and took the nuts out of my hand, and from there, that's how the trust was built, with a few nuts and a conversation. You doing good today? I know it's a little cloudy.
But Maxine isn't so quick to trust her human neighbor.
I know we're not that familiar, but listen, you can trust me on this. Come and get the nut. I had to sit down and have that conversation like, hey, it's okay, I'm not gonna hurt you. You got trust issues? Who hurt you? I won't hurt you. It took a few weeks, but she eventually came around. There we go. I told you I ain't here to hurt you.
Before long, Derek and his squirrely neighbors are spending every day together. And in a show of neighborly goodwill, Derek decides to surprise his new neighbors with their very own house.
He up in there like, oh, what is this? I got a fridge, a stove, a sink. Oh, Derek went all out for me.
Richard and Maxine's daily hijinks have amassed millions of views and more than 800,000 followers on social media. To anyone who thinks this neighborly relationship is on the squirrely side, Derek thinks differently.
Richard and Maxine are just like human neighbors. They come together and sometimes they have arguments. Just stop. I promise you, there's neighborhood wars and animal neighborhoods as well.
And just like many neighborhoods, this one is getting bigger.
All the signs are pointing to Maxine being pregnant. Am I excited to have a new neighbor? Absolutely. I can't wait to welcome the new neighbors into the neighborhood. Look, right there. No, not me. I ain't got nothing. Look at the camera. Okay, let me get you something. Hold on.
Cynthia Thompson, who lives with her mom and her daughter, has requested help from her neighbors on social media. 8-year-old Abby, Cynthia's daughter, has undergone 3 rounds of chemo for a rare type of ovarian cancer.
It was a hard time because she was in throes. She was getting chemo. You can't take that pain away from your kid. You want to, but you can't.
But to make things worse, the coronavirus pandemic hits, and her 9th birthday party with family and friends has to be canceled.
It's hard telling a kid who's been through so much with all the cancer, hey, your birthday's canceled, sorry.
Cynthia's family has lived on the street since she was a baby. With it being a tight-knit community, the caring neighbors come together to figure out how they might help this brave kid on the block who is going through so much.
Abby, come on.
Much to Cynthia's surprise, her neighbors go beyond her simple request to wish Abby a happy birthday from their porches and organize one of the pandemic's first car parades, including kids from Abby's school and members of her local church.
What did you do, Mom?
It was just really awesome. Everybody coming out. She felt the love pretty hard.
Abby's grandmother is also there to witness the extraordinary act of neighborly love.
It just made you feel so good that something fun was happening for Abby.
Like after all that hard effort pushing through chemo and stuff, it was very amazing.
This day was the start of Abby being happy again, a true smile. I would like to extend a wonderful thank you to our neighborhood and our community for stepping up and being there for us through Abby's cancer. Good. Hold on. Okay. They went beyond all the time.
And Abby has more good news. She finishes her cancer treatment. And now at the age of 11, she's been in full remission for over a year.
Now that I'm cancer-free, I can hang out with my friends again. And it's just a lot better to be out in the real world than stuck in a hospital.
She is a cancer survivor and a rock star in my eyes.
Cynthia and Abby will always remember how their old neighbors made Abby feel special when she needed it most. They say lightning doesn't strike twice, but it seems bad neighbors do. And Hector Martinet has already tussled with a bad neighbor or two.
Trying to rob me. Come on.
Oh, hell no.
This video catches a previous attempt at someone trying to burglarize Hector's house.
If I ever see you again, dude, oh man, you better run.
But now they're targeting his neighborhood.
You just hold on.
It's days before Christmas. Hector sees a young man taking a package off his neighbor's porch.
It's your cousins, huh? Oh yeah, you're just dropping it off, or what are you doing with it?
There's a book in it.
Yeah, let's take it over here to the owner. Come on. I know everybody in the neighborhood. I've lived there a very long time. I love my neighbors. Put the pack up there now. Put it back on the house.
The package belongs to one of his oldest neighbors, a recent widow.
That lady had just lost her husband, and it was nearing Christmas, and the son had sent that package as a book.
Hector calls the police.
I got a guy stealing packs off people's front porches. I need a unit here on 5921.
No, please don't call us.
The suspect begs Hector to let him go, but he must be new to the neighborhood.
Get the cops here right now. I definitely wasn't gonna let this go. he was not gonna victimize my neighborhood or my block. And you stand right there until I get here.
Hector worries the suspect might try and run before police arrive, and Hector is not dressed for a chase.
I'm standing here barefoot in the snow with no shirt.
To Hector's relief, another neighbor, Bob, arrives and offers Hector some help.
Hey, Bob, get on your phone too, would you?
But the suspect is getting antsy.
Stay right there, man. Sit down. I'm gonna get my dogs on you, man. Sit down or I'm gonna let the dogs out.
And once he steps off the porch, Hector resorts to plan B.
Here, Bob, hold this.
He hands the phone to his neighbor and prepares to keep him there by whatever means necessary.
You ain't big enough. Now sit your ass down on that porch or I'm gonna lay you out on the snow. Go. Down.
So Hector decides to convince him.
I got the cops on the way, buddy. Never me, man. I told him, you either wait for the cops or you're gonna have to deal with me. Because I'm not gonna be as nice as the cops. You ain't big enough, believe me. You hear me? Come to the wrong neighborhood.
Hector scolds the suspected porch pirate until police arrive.
What are you thinking anyway? No, I mean, what are you, Grinch? Come up in here, ruin people's Christmas shit? Man, you piss me off, dude.
The cops let the man go with just a warning, and the neighborhood's holidays are saved. Hector's heroics don't go unnoticed.
All of a sudden, now I'm getting cookies from the neighbors thanking me. I didn't really think I did anything, you know?
And to all the would-be crooks roaming around, Hector has a warning of his own.
You in the wrong neighborhood, buddy. Sit the down.
When it comes to wandering pets, good leashes make good neighbors. Sometimes it's not our neighbors we have problems with at all, but their pets. Whether stealing packages from doorsteps or leaving packages on doorsteps, some pets just can't be trusted. Meet Phoenix, an orange tabby that looks innocent, but is actually one of this Belize neighborhood's most notorious cat burglars.
My cat has stolen 14 pairs of gloves and someone's reading glasses.
Judging by the amount of stuff, it's only a matter of time before this klepto cat got caught.
Now what's happened is we've had a neighbor contact us because they're missing their gloves.
And with mounting evidence, Phoenix's punishment is swift.
A neighbor saw you. We're gonna have to go apologize. You've been busted. Better hope they don't press charges.
Phoenix acts indifferent. But when she gets to the neighbor's house, she is in no mood to apologize.
I know, but you're gonna have to.
The neighbors accept Phoenix's apology and end up claiming 3 of the 14 pairs of stolen gloves. And although she has a long road of redemption ahead, Phoenix should be fine. After all, cats always land on their feet. Santee is a small suburban community just outside of San Diego, and for resident Michael Keeley, the perfect place to raise his family.
Just enough yard for the kids to play in, but close enough that you can meet your neighbors and spend time with them.
But one October afternoon, this picture-perfect neighborhood is thrown into complete chaos.
It was an average day. I was working at home, sitting at my desk, I was on the phone. All of a sudden, I could hear the explosion. My wife said, "What was that?" And all of a sudden, the house just started shaking.
Their house shaking on its foundation. Michael rushes outside to see the air filling with smoke.
I saw a big puff of smoke, and so I immediately started running towards the scene, and I was followed by a couple of my neighbors.
Michael and his neighbors appear to be first on the scene.
I round the corner and I could see this house was on fire, and the whole street in front of it was on fire, and saw there was a truck that was on fire. One of the neighbors noticed the plane had crashed.
The neighbor discovers the source of the fire. A twin-engine Cessna has crashed onto the street while making its approach to the nearby airport. It appears the plane hit the delivery truck first before crashing into the 2 houses.
My first thought was, God, I hope he was delivering a package.
Were flames beginning to consume the property? Michael and his neighbors race to the window to check on the homeowners.
Is anybody home? Is anybody inside?
We saw a woman that was still inside.
They recognized their elderly neighbor, Maria Morris, trapped inside her burning home.
There was like 6 or 7 good Samaritan neighbors who all went with us to the window, trying to see if we could get her out.
Come on!
You could just hear the roar of the fire. It's just getting closer and closer to the window. I reached in, I grabbed her arm and got her out.
Maria Morris is badly burned and her hair noticeably singed.
She was in shock and she kept asking to go back for her dog.
My dog! Where's your dog?
I said, it's okay, let's get you to safety first, and then we'll have somebody go back and get the dog. As we got across the street, the truck exploded.
Oh my God! Be careful!
I could see how destroyed the truck was, and I started having fears of, was he in there or not?
Is the driver okay?
I don't know.
Where's he at?
That's the question.
Just then, another neighbor makes a horrifying discovery.
There's somebody back there!
Maria's husband, Phil, is trapped in the backyard behind a locked fence and is seriously injured.
Can you get through the fence?
Fearing another explosion, his neighbors desperately rip apart the fence with their bare hands in a race to beat the flames to the backyard. He's ushered across the street to safety.
Let him sit down, let him sit down.
He was also badly burned.
Both Maria and Phil are rushed to the hospital, suffering serious burns requiring skin grafts and surgery on their hands, arms, neck, and legs. While their injuries are severe, both are expected to make a full recovery.
Dude, she's burning.
I know she is, honey.
While recovering in the hospital, Maria sends a message of thanks to all her neighbors.
Hello, friends and my family. Thank you for everything you have done to us, help us, support us, and it's really tremendous. It's beautiful.
Tragically, the aircraft's pilot, Dr. Sugata Das, and truck driver, Steve Kruger, are killed in the crash. Maria's dog, Roxy, also dies. The accident is still under investigation. And while Michael, the neighbor that first raced to the scene, is still processing the events from that day, since the crash, he and his neighbors have become close friends.
I think that's what's really helped me through a lot of this, is what good neighbors we have here in our neighborhood, that we all step up and help each other. Our lives are intertwined now. We're family now, and we're going to rebuild, and we still get to be neighbors.
Clanton is about an hour south of Birmingham in rural Alabama, and it's where Jason Abraham has lived his entire life.
Rural life is really unique. You may have to yell very loudly, or in some cases, you might actually have to drive for your neighbor to hear you. But all the neighbors here love to help each other out.
One day, as Jason is driving his work truck, he comes upon an unusual sighting.
I was driving about 4 to 4.5 miles from my house.
As Jason is driving through the neighborhood, he sees a small puppy run into the middle of the road, and there's no adult in sight.
I'm an animal lover. That's probably a big reason why I turned around to save the dog. But as I pull up, I see this child that approximately 13, 14 months old. And she was just hysterically crying. It was odd to see an unattended child that close to the roadside. As I walked towards her, the dog was going crazy. She held her arms up, and the dog pushed me towards her, and I put her in my arms. And it was at that moment that I realized I don't know what to do. I decided the proper thing to do would be to call the police, but I did not have my cell phone on me. And that meant a trip back to this company van, this creepy van with out-of-state plates, and I just knew someone was going to see me carrying this crying baby back to my van and probably attack me or try to shoot me. I did make it back to the van safely and made the phone call. During the time of waiting for the police, I saw a neighbor 2 houses down. I asked if she knew who lived at this house.
The woman immediately recognizes the child and leads them to the correct house.
Someone came out. They were hysterical. Little girl stretched her arms out, and I let her take the child from me. She had 2 children that she was looking after that day. She had just put them down for a nap, and she had fallen asleep. Her oldest child opened the door to go next door to see a relative, and that allowed the youngest child to crawl out. And it also allowed their family pet to follow her out. It was just a freak accident.
With the child safe at home, Jason posts the dashcam video online, and after more than 50 million views, he still refuses to take credit for the rescue.
I absolutely don't think of myself as a hero. To me, the real hero is that little dog. Had that dog not behaved the way that that dog did, I would have never been there to help.
And even though nobody is hurt during this incident, Jason still sees a lesson that can be learned from his experience with a very neighborly dog that day.
It's gonna help remind parents and grandparents and babysitters to be a little extra diligent and lock that top lock on the door, because children can be escape artists.
A biker is working on his motorcycle in his North Carolina neighborhood when out of nowhere, the fuel line pops off, sending gasoline spraying everywhere, and it's barely a second before the fuel catches fire. The motorcyclist, who is also ablaze, runs into his garage looking to escape the flames. He comes back out with a fire extinguisher and tries to quell the growing inferno, but his extinguisher is too small for a fire this hot. If the flames reach his house, the gas is burning hot enough that the entire home can easily go up in a matter of minutes. And when one home is on fire, the entire neighborhood is at risk. The cyclist backs off, and with his fire extinguisher spent, all he can do is watch the fire dance dangerously close to his home. All seems lost, when suddenly, a hero appears from next door.
We're back, I got it.
A neighbor has run outside with an extinguisher of their own, and they run in a circular pattern around the bike to contain the flames. Another neighbor joins them as they do everything in their power to keep the fire away from the house. Less than 10 minutes after the fire starts, firefighters are on the scene, and with a couple of well-placed shots of the hose, the fire is extinguished. The motorcyclist is taken to the hospital with 2nd and 3rd degree burns, but fortunately escapes more serious injury. And even though the motorcycle is completely destroyed, there's no extensive damage to the home. All thanks to some helpful neighbors who are able to buy some precious seconds until the fire department shows up.